Hello, hello, hello. This is such a great intro for the third episode of Argo Unpacked.
Yeah, we're
I
kicking this
agree.
one off. Thank you. Thank you for that
Thank you,
amazing
John.
name to John Bristow for putting that together. And shout out to special guest Carlos Santana.
Woo, woo, woo. I'm
Thank
really
you, thank you.
excited to meet you. I see your name in the Argo Slack, and finally I get to meet you in face to face, like online.
I'm glad to get the invitation. I was waiting for it. So super happy to be here. And that intro, I think, is epic. I think we should have it. It should be exclusive on this episode, right? And the only place people can find it is here. And probably have a special edition at ArgoCon. And today we'll be talking about that. So yeah,
Yeah,
just as an
today we're
intro.
gonna be talking. Yeah, that's right. All about ArgoCon. And before we jump into it, I think Carlos, maybe a way to start introducing yourself for people that haven't met you before is to tell us a little bit about your shoe collection.
Oh yes. I switched careers, so instead of working with pods, I started working with sneakers. Right, so I have a lot of them. Nope, I'm just kidding. I'm a solutions architect at AWS, and I work with a lot of customers that use EKS, Kubernetes, and they have a bunch of them. And one of the tools that they use to manage it is Argo rollouts, ArgoCon, Argo CD, Argo events, Argo workflows. And that's what I do at AWS. I'm not just Argo, but in general, I'm a EKS specialist. So anything EKS, I work with customers. I work with the service team, working on new enhancements that we're coming up with. But yeah, excited to be in the open source community. Just like being there for the end users that are using it. And myself, I've been using Argo since like 6-7 years ago, and I love it. Like every year gets better. And by my sneakers, I just collect a few of them. Just by my pods, I guess.
Well, I actually learned a few years ago that there is a big overlap between the infra engineering world, platform stability, SRE world, and sneakerheads, because I was talking to somebody at a sneaker company, let's say, and they were telling me that when they drop a new
Yes.
Air sneaker, so to speak, that they will get 1 billion hits in the first few minutes because they're limited runs. It's like we're going to make 100 of this sneaker and they'll get 1 billion hits. All these botnets going and trying to buy this limited edition run sneakers. So have you been able to use the inside track at AWS to help you get an edge on getting new sneakers?
No, everybody. I think it's not bots. Like real people actually use their phone, and a lot of kids. Actually, they get and they schedule. There's a system. There's an ecosystem that you have to have certain points to actually like be able to bet for sneakers drops. So it's interesting aspect of it. And then the other day I saw some other company like having trouble online. I got a notification and went to the app, and it says like, please hold up. I think I posted that in social media, like use scale, right? Use the scale of Kubernetes to run your services.
Yeah, that's if you can scale, then maybe you can handle 1 billion hits to do some sneakers. Well, for today's topic, we are going to be talking about ArgoCon, and of course, this is, I think, did we get a count, Revital, official of which ArgoCon this is? Is this the 8th, 9th?
That's a good question.
Shoot, I can't remember now that I'm thinking about it.
So you have time to explore that.
Was in 2021, and then we did 2 a year after that. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So this should be the 9th ArgoCon.
Okay. If not, you can correct us on the comments. So please put in the comments where you're watching. If you're watching live, just say something. Say where you're located. What is the time over there?
Yeah, and tell us about your first ArgoCon experience.
If you're going to ArgoCon, put it there because I'll be there. Dan will be there. I don't know if Rita, would you be there?
I will be there. I will be there. Yeah.
Right. It's like a reunion. It feels right every time. Like that's the only thing excites me the most. ArgoCon.
Well, and actually, Carlos. So for those that don't know, Carlos and I are both co-chairing this ArgoCon along with Christian Hernandez, for those of you that know who he is. And I think, Carlos, this is your second time as a co-chair with me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's very good experience and honor, right, to be a chair, and a lot of work behind the scenes of like organizing and trying to between all the team. That's a committee, right? The supporting committee. If you don't know about the CNCF projects, there's a committee that we go over, and I was looking at the stats, and we got about almost 100. Usually we get in the hundreds of submissions. So to be able to select the talks, give us a good diversification, right, of ArgoCon talks, and then and I think this year we're doing something different, like special. We have even a trivia, we have an MC.
Yeah.
Like every year we try to do a little bit more.
We try to up the game a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk
So
about
for people like me,
Yeah.
that are completely new to that, is there a schedule for all of those fun activities?
Why yes, Ravital, there is. And that's a perfect question that we can get that. I'll pull it up right now. And
But
I'll share my screen.
I think while you're pulling that, let's start with few updates.
Okay.
And then I was thinking we can talk Argo CD 3.0 because we have to. And then let's proceed the ArgoCon. What do you guys say?
Yeah, you're right. Good idea.
Good? Okay. I'll do it very, very quickly. I have a few updates I wanted to share. And basically, we have created dedicated social channels just for Argo Unpacked. So we basically have LinkedIn, X, and new YouTube channel. And the goal is basically to show updates, some sneak peeks of the upcoming episodes, who are our special guests. And I think that the most important thing is basically we would love to hear feedback from you. So this is one option to provide feedback, questions, topic, guests that you would like to see. Feel free to share those with us.
And we also have to tell you, Ravital, this is our first time announcing this new Argo Unpacked Twitter handle. And we currently have 2 followers, you and me. We didn't even get Carlos. So
no, I didn't know.
Big call to action. Go and follow there.
Definitely.
There's no Blue Sky. I'm using Blue Sky.
There is a Blue Sky as well. And that is expected, Dan, because that's the goal of this announcement. So I'm expecting that by the next episode, we will have hundreds of them.
I'm expecting while we're sitting here to just see the counts going up. And so I'm just hitting refresh while we talk about it.
Okay.
One thing that I want to say, the idea, I don't know, I didn't see the first episode. I think I saw the second one with Luke and others. The episodes are very good. I'm learning. I work in Argo constantly, but I learn new things on this show or episode or stream, and it's insane. Like, people don't realize the amount of features, right, that Argo CD has. That I was talking to someone the other day, and people were saying, well, you can do all these things with Kubernetes, and every day they discover something like, you can do that with Kubernetes. And at scale, probably Argo CD, but then at Argo rollouts, right, and Argo workflow. If somebody doesn't study, right, of the amount of features of the things that is supported in Argo CD, right, that needs to be maintained and bug fixed and work, compare that to Kubernetes or another big project like OpenTelemetry, let's say. I think we're head to head, but maybe that's an experiment somebody wants to do in the community of like the amount of feature sets. And having Argo Unpacked, right, that's what I want to get to, is a good vehicle and channel of like bringing those use cases that sometimes even the maintainers of the Argo project don't even know how people are using it.
Yeah, that's exactly perfectly said, Carlos. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And all of those episodes are recorded and uploaded to our YouTube, to the new YouTube channel. So you can also watch those there. And in addition to that, there are also short videos. I'm trying them to be not longer than 2 minutes. And I basically really cherry pick those features that we're talking about, some tips that we have from Dan, and some tips we have had from Luke and Costis. And I compose them into those 2 minutes of videos. And they're very quick, because today everything has to be super quick.
Yeah, when we do the show, we kind of chat a little bit, but if you just want to catch the shorts, you'll get little snippets here and there.
Yeah, just a hook on what's the topic.
Yes. And last but not least, if you want to stay in the loop with all the things that are related to Argo Unpacked and only Argo Unpacked, I promise I won't be spamming you. You can subscribe. This is our landing page. On the bottom, you have this form. You can subscribe, and we will be sharing some newsletter.
Yeah, and this isn't just like, hey, here's a link to the episode, we're going live. This is we take some of the highlights from our episodes, we share those, and some of the other news going on. So it works as a general purpose. Here's what's going on in the world of Argo newsletter. So definitely grab that, check it out, and we'll see.
Very useful if it has kind of a summary of the show and then the links to the resources, right? The example, the GitHub repo, the documentation, like that's what I want. Yeah, very good.
Yep, that's the goal.
Yeah, fantastic. So these are my updates. I'm ready to move on to Argo CD 3.0.
Okay, yeah. So Argo CD 3.0, today we are cutting the release candidate for Argo CD 3.0.
Probably today. Probably today. Reggie updated that it will be happening today. Probably today.
So our very own Reggie Voloshin, who wrote this blog post announcing Argo CD version 3, small but mighty, and we'll post the link in here. But this kind of went through like, hey, this is what we're doing for Argo CD 3.0. We're very close to the release, like Rovital and I were saying, it should be today or tomorrow for the release candidate. And we'll probably do a full show about 3.0, maybe post KubeCon. But what this really boils down to with 3.0, first of all, this is not like a Java 5 versus 6 thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to stay on Java 5 forever. This is meant to be an incremental upgrade in the exact same way that you've gone to Argo 2.13, 2.14, or those other minor version releases. What we've done in this release is we have gone through and basically distilled a lot of best practices into running Argo into the default operation of Argo CD. So, for example, any Argo CD admin will very likely, as soon as they install Argo CD, they'll change the resource tracking method from label to annotation or annotation plus label. And why do they do that? Because the name of an application can only be so long if you're using labels, and it gets truncated, and that causes issues. But it can be much longer if you're using the annotation tracking method. So there's a lot of things like that where admins, as soon as they set it up, they have their default settings that they're like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And we basically took all those things that people were doing and pretty much didn't have downsides, and we made those the defaults for Argo CD 3.0. So because that is a behavior change, that is one of the reasons that we waited until a major release to do those things. And we also have a couple of things that we've changed, like, for example, by default, a user in... Oh, sorry.
I want you to wait for a few seconds. Yes, it's there. But it was super important for Reggie to say that it was really inspired by the community. A lot of feedback was gathered to basically understand what are those default values that are being widely used, so that they can be used in the 3.0 version.
Yeah, and in terms of default values, you will say that other projects, right? They caught a major release 4.0, 5.x, when they're going to release a big feature, right? Adding a lot of feature to the project. In this case, Argo CD is such a critical project of like running systems, right? Observability, having systems that are like, if something doesn't work, think a lot of things go bad. And then changing defaults was something that the contributors, like the maintainers, was like, we wish we didn't have that default, and people were using that default, right?
Yeah.
And if we wanted to change it, we can change it and say like, people like, well, we have a new default. But so much people use and depend on Argo CD that changing that is a massive amount of. So the 3.0 is also like a signal, or maybe an announcement saying, hey, watch out, there's something changing, right? And it's an opportunity. And the maintainers, Michael and others, say like, well, let's do 3.0 just to say it's the same as 2.14, which is the last one. And the things that we're going to do is like cherry pick kind of like a few items and not be a big thing, because there's also a lot of machinery, like in the CNCF project, in this Argo CD, CNCF machinery in terms of like switching from 2.x or regular expressions or the Go modules, everything related to that. So there's a lot of like work that the maintainers have to go through to just make it a new version.
Yeah. And so like some of those things are setting changes that relate to performance and security. So for example, one of the things that we did is, I'm trying to see if it's even on this slide, but
the batch or the Redis. I kind of know a few.
Oh, about Redis?
Yeah, we're going to remove the state of the resources and save that in Redis. That would help with the performance with large Argo CD apps that have, or you have a large set of Argo CD apps. If the status is there in the Argo CD resource in netcd, for example, it would create a lot of flapping, right, back and forth.
That's right.
And another one related maybe to that is Alex is doing a lot of work around ignore resource updates everywhere.
Yes,
like,
this is
like
the
everywhere.
one that I was going to talk about.
I think that's the one we're talking about.
And actually, this is a good point to mention. Carlos is actually is the head of our SIG scalability. This is a special interest group just focused on scalability challenges with Argo CD and improvements there. So a lot of the stuff that's gone into 3.0 has come from the conversations that were happening in SIG scalability. So hats off to you on that. The resource tracking thing that you brought up, there are a lot of things that are controller handled in Kubernetes where it's expected that there's going to be changes in those resources because of like you're using Kyverno, you're using whatever. And so a lot of those defaults of, hey, we expect that controllers are going to be making these changes that Argo CD shouldn't be tracking. Those have been added as default things that Argo CD will ignore. But a lot of the things, including that one in Argo CD, that those defaults that are changed, you can change them back if you wanted to keep that functionality the way it was.
Yeah. Security awareness, right? I don't know if you have the highlight, but the Argo CD using a config map basically to store secret information.
Yeah,
Argo CD CM, right? Now, like for the longest time, right, we have been supporting Argo CD, create a secret for your Git repositories, put that information there. But it happens like people use old versions and they keep using the same configuration over and over again. This is one of the signals like, hey, by the way, in 3.0, like slap in the hand, right? Like stop doing that bad behavior. Switch over. And then recommendation for secrets, right? Regina put something around that.
Yeah, that's right.
So what is the expectation if the config map is being removed?
So the config map itself isn't being removed. The Argo CD CM config map is still there, but repository connection information has been supported to be stored as a secret for a long time in Argo CD. And that's the ideal way to do it. That's the right way to do it.
Okay.
Storing it in a config map means you have information that should be secret. Like here, it's just showing your password and stuff in plain text in a config map. There's no reason to do that. And so some people have been using that configuration going way back just because we didn't originally have support to store repo information in secrets. But since we've had it for quite a while, it's time to get rid of that from config maps.
So it's also part of bullet number 4, right? Having an opinion on secrets.
Yeah, this is one that I worked with Michael a little bit on. So there's a lot of popular tools that people use to inject secrets into Argo CD generated manifests during the manifest generation phase. So the way that Argo CD works is it checks out a repository, could have a Helm chart, could be customized, could be plain manifest, but it has to distill those into final manifests so that they can be applied to the cluster. And people are using config map plugins, config management plugins or other kinds of plugins that would basically inject secrets directly into those manifests as values and not even necessarily as secrets, right? So like they might take a value and push it into like a name or something like that. And they'd pull that from Vault or maybe some other secrets management tool. And it's just not the way that Kubernetes secrets are designed to work. We have really awesome Kubernetes secrets operators now. And when Argo CD 2.0 came out, there was a lot of change happening with secrets management. We didn't have anywhere near the maturity in Kubernetes that we do today with secrets management. Now you've got like CSI driver, you've got external secrets that's so powerful and just works with basically everything. And so there's really no reason to inject secrets into the manifests themselves and to have Argo CD doing that. So even though you can still do that in Argo CD 3.0, we did come out with a recommendation and said, hey, we really think you should not be doing that. That's not a secure way to do it. That's not a stable way to do it. And you really should be moving to this path. And part of that is to send a signal. Last thing I'll say about it, I'm sorry I'm talking a lot, but last thing I'll say about it is that a lot of the reason that people have been using these tools to inject secrets into manifests at the generation time is because maybe they're using like a third-party Helm chart that doesn't operate in the way that secrets are meant to operate. And so part of putting out this opinion is to put out a signal also to those Helm chart makers and say like, hey, this is really the way that secrets are supposed to be managed. Please stop doing it this way because it's not safe and secure.
Yeah, I think I was going to add that, but you added it. It's the number one use case that come up a lot. And maybe one of the things that people can do now if they're watching like, or us come up with ideas in the community, in the Argo CD of saying, what should we do as a community, right? Should we go back into Helm project, right? So the idea, the use case comes usually in Slack and it's like, how do I add this API key to my payment service or my open API key into my Helm chart? Well, because they're just using the Helm chart, it says that you need to pass this secret key type of information. I was like, why are you passing that over? Like, you should pass the name of the secret that
has the information.
That has the information. And then, so one thing that we can do is get with the Helm community, the Argo CD community, the UI, and start detecting when any Helm charts or like scan the whole artifact repository, any Helm chart that has a secret, right? You should not be generating a secret at all and flag them as like, make them be embarrassed, right? Kind of thing. And then like automatically open a issue, right? On that GitHub repo and say, hey, we need help improving the use case or documentation. Maybe sometimes documentation, right? That people don't know that you can pass the name of the secret instead of saying create the secret. The same way you can pass another pattern that is similar, I'll stop also, is service accounts. A lot of Helm charts create the service accounts, but the person deploying the Helm chart doesn't have permissions to create the service account. So it always fails. So the admin team is the one that needs to create the service account because it has the power to create the service account associated with the role. And then you pass the name of the service account that you want to use, not the actual content of the service account or tell it to create it. Just going out a rant because like there's a lot of time wasted in the universe. If that not talking about this topic with end users.
Now, Rovital, I'm going to put you on the spot and let me ask you a trivia question. It's actually a did you know question. Did you know that if you have a Helm chart that creates service accounts, for example, and there's no flag within the Helm chart, that there is a way to have those removed from the manifest before they're applied?
No.
You did not know that. Okay, so
tell me about it.
The way that I recommend doing that is by using Customize to wrap your Helm chart. And you can then go in and add a patch and you can remove resources it'll render the Helm chart, and you can make modifications essentially post rendering the Helm chart with Customize, and you can remove things like the service account. And if the Helm chart maker didn't add in that functionality, you're not required to still use it because you can use Customize with Helm.
Yeah, it's an extra flag you can pass to the You're talking in the concept of Argo CD, right? You can enable when you deploy a Helm chart and it has something that you want to remove or you want to add, and hopefully are not secrets. You can like operate, right, with customized operations like replace, find, like all these things like massage it, something that was not available in the values.yaml. Usually it's the use case.
And
but it's one liner, right, in the Argo CD configuration.
Yeah, you enable the Customize with Helm configuration.
Boolean.
But I've used that before with Helm charts that didn't use secrets properly. I've made a customized set of patches that would that basically overrode that behavior, added the secret as the normal Kubernetes way, and then set up a separate secret that was generated and managed outside that lifecycle. So there definitely are options, even if your third-party Helm chart sucks, to have it work a better way. But I think we've covered a lot of the basics about Argo CD 3.0.
I have one question here.
Oh, yeah.
I have one question here regarding to the third one. Making apply nested selectors true, the default and only option. So why is it even part of the configuration if it's the only option and if it's set to true? Why is it not being removed?
Well, when matrix and merge, like when the matrix generator was first made, I think there was a lot of like question mark about like how people were going to use it and things like that. And so a lot of those options were just it was like put out there like, yeah, I'm not exactly, we'll see what people do. And basically the applying nested selectors is something that everybody kind of goes and enables.
Go ahead. I was going to say, this is a symptom related what I said about in the Argo CD community, and Michael and others, and Dan does this a lot, is that when somebody wants to introduce something new into Argo CD at the scale that is used, we want to give an option of like, oh, you're going to add this feature that we add this in the spec, and then everybody says, well, what about if people don't want that behavior? So then you have to put like, I don't want the new behavior. Like for example, when apply nested, it could be, I don't remember the use case, but maybe let's say that when apply nested selector was introduced, people say like, now it's going to work differently that I used to work, but that should be the correct way. It wasn't implemented correct. Maybe it wasn't implemented the way that we knew that was intended, and everybody was happy with it because it never went to the field. So we just add the feature. And this is in general in every feature. And we're doing this with 3.0 of like any features that we're going to remove from things, always give an option of like going back to the other one. So in 3.0, you will see that. And maybe going forward, because maintaining old things becomes difficult, maybe it gets dropped on like 3.1 or 3.2, but it's TBD. But that's mainly the reason that you see things in Argo CD, is because at the time that something gets introduced, it can be used as massive, that it can impact large deployments that people are like, I don't want to like adopt a new thing just from going from a dot release. So that's a reason for many of these default values.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would like to, we went through all of those really quickly. I just have one thing I wanted to mention, support for older versions. At the release day, the following versions will be supported, the 2.14 and 13. And yeah, the planned date was for today. Reggie said that it will probably be happening either today or this week. And then GA will be probably my 6th.
So let's go back to that support dates slide
a little bit
for just a second. So the way that we do Argo support is we release security updates and critical bug fixes, less often on the bug fixes thing, but definitely on the security updates.
Security patch.
For current -2 versions. So if current version is 3, then 14 and 13 are going to be supported. Now, when we come out with 3.1 next quarter, we will drop support for 2.13 And at the end of the year, when we come out with 3.2, we'll drop support for 2.14. So this is not I'm going to stay on 2. Whatever for 3 years because I don't want to move to 3.0. This upgrade is pretty safe, and we are providing basically scripts, tools that you can use to detect if you need to make any changes to your current Argo CD before upgrading. If you just do a blind upgrade, even if you have some of these configurations, I think you're unlikely to have like catastrophic problems. You're more likely to have, maybe an error here or there, but definitely when this, definitely go through the blog post. There's a link to the steps to check those things. And when we do a follow-on after KubeCon, probably on Argo CD 3.0, probably closer to GA, like which is planned for May. I think we'll do a little bit deeper dive on the upgrade process and talk more about that. But it is all documented, and you can jump into that and start reading up on it. And obviously, this is a release candidate, so I wouldn't shove it into production yet.
But if you want to, one thing that I saw good that the community is doing, I put it the link. I don't know if one of you can put it into the comments. Is the documentation that Dan said of like we always do a like from previous release to how to upgrade. So there's a 2.14 to 3.0. That one, I bet it's going to be a very popular document that people are going to read to know if they can go to 3.0. So you can start reading right now if you're impacted or not, or if it's not clear, the steps in there on how to like make any changes to make your Argo CD installation compatible with 3.0 and not have any side effects. Please review it. If you have comments, you want to improve it, the documentation, open a pull request. Because that will be like the source of truth. As people are doing PRs and we're merging code, it always goes with a doc update. It goes with a doc update. I think we're discussing that in SIG scalability the other day of like seeing what are the things that affect either behavior or performance. There's a few that I would improve the performance. I think the last one was batch, operating in batches, the number of cluster events.
Oh yeah,
so
everything here is a performance improvement. There's no performance negative impacts from any of the features that I've seen for 3.0.
So the guideline is if I have a question or any issue or I need support to just open an issue, or should I also go to the Slack channel and post a question there?
The issue, an Argo CD issue is the best because then that's Googleable and other people will see it and they can answer it. But obviously, you're welcome to use the Slack. If you're one of the GitOps champions, you're welcome to bring it up in our Discord for the people that are. If you know, if you're part of the team, you can talk about it.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Docs issue and then Slack, because the first thing people are going to ask you, where's the issue? So with the details, that usually is the suggestion. But yeah, go to the docs to see, something's not working, and you may find it in the docs because if something's changing, it's going to be in the docs. If something is not working, it's because it wasn't working on 2.14. So don't blame 3.0.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it was a great intro. As Dan mentioned, we will have a full episode about Argo CD 3.0. I want to get back to my question about ArgoCon. Assuming I saw the agenda, I see that there are many interesting talks and technical stuff and labs and stuff like that. I want to ask you about social stuff and events and fun things to do there. Is there a schedule for that?
So there is a schedule for ArgoCon, and if I share,
I think I have it up if you want to see it.
Oh wait, this is just us talking.
Share my screen.
Okay, hang on.
I'm still sharing.
Yeah. So yeah, you can go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, so Revita, you're asking for, there's a schedule for fun things. There's actually a lot of talks that are going to be fun, like all of them. And ArgoCon. So that will be the first, like during the day.
I love it.
The fun is at ArgoCon. And the schedule is in CNCF. You can click, it's part of the co-located schedule. You can like filter by in ArgoCon if you want to see the ones, all of them, or data processing, observability, progress delivery, scalability, software delivery. But yeah, this is the schedule. that is going to be a whole day. We have 2 rooms, room 1, room A and room B, and people can start looking at what is going to happen there. So usually, and we're going to go over a few talks. How are we doing with time? An opening early in the morning, so get there early. Get earlier before we start, because people gather around and they start like chatting and talking. There's always a hallway track outside the rooms, so that's usually where people hang out and have discussions. But yeah, we kick off with the opening Argo project updates. So every representative of a project will give their updates. Like Michael will give Argo CD. We have Argo workflows.
Will I be able to recognize speakers, contributors, maintainers?
You
Do
mean
they have
like
like a specific tag, or will I be able to recognize them as we
there's
are?
not a special tag for people who are Argo maintainers. All of the project updates are going to be given by maintainers, and then usually people in their intro slide will just say if they're a maintainer or not.
Okay.
And we do have, I think, the second most number of maintainers on an open source project after Kubernetes in the CNCF. Kubernetes has more, but we have quite a few as well. So
Okay.
but Zach
And
is a maintainer. Shrenken is a maintainer.
Yeah, these are maintaining updates on
maintainer.
the different. Argo is a project, but we have sub projects. So every maintainer will give a quick update on the specific projects, and those are maintainers, people that are maintainers.
okay, now I see that there are many sessions at around the same time, and if I don't want to miss anything, those sessions will be recorded. Will I be able to watch them later on?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's usually
It's
the
my
stressful
FOMO that
the
starts.
stressful part of ArgoCon is that you have to choose between two childs, like room A or room B, and we try to make the schedule in a way that, for the most part, makes sense that you stay in the same room. But they're both there. But we also try to overlap. There's no perfect way of doing a schedule like with 2 rooms, but yeah, all the ArgoCon talks are available in YouTube on the CNCF
Good.
channel since the beginning, and you can watch them. And actually, that's kind of like another big source of like learning about how people are using Argo and best practices.
My recommendation when you're looking at which talks you want to attend in person versus maybe watch the recording of, if you think you're likely to have questions, or if you think you might want to talk to the speaker afterwards, that's the session I would go to. So like, it's not necessarily the session I think is the most interesting. It's the one that I'm like, okay, this is the one that I'm going to question the most, or I want to talk to the person the most, because, recordings are recordings. You can't ask them questions. But when you're at ArgoCon, you can talk to people, you can talk to other attendees, you can talk to the speaker. That's the best part of ArgoCon, is like right after the talk, maybe you have the Q&A, or maybe after the speaker goes to leave, you can say hey and introduce yourself and talk with them, and that's always really good part of
yeah. Speakers either hang out for the whole day, half a day, or hang out a little bit after they talk, because they want to talk to people that are interested on the same problem that they're presenting, right, and how they were able to solve it. But yeah, that's actually a good strategy of like, who do you want to talk to, pick that talk, or if you have like the same problem, or I'm having that, you can relate to the talk, and potentially you will come up with the questions when you see it, right? You don't know the questions until you see the talk.
Now, these kickoff talks here are all the project updates. They're like 5 minutes, and they're going to be very quick. There's no laptop change between these. When it comes to the fun stuff, before we talk about just talks in general, we are doing trivia at 12:30. So if you go over to that 12:30 slot, right there.
Something new in this ArgoCon, because I submitted a complaint like there's no trivia fun section or a fun slot. So we added the trivia, and this was an idea from Dan that he was doing something in another one. So I'm not going to spoil it, but that will be a fun one, and that will be Kathy doing that, which is our MC for ArgoCon.
And I think there might actually even be some prizes.
Might be.
So make sure you're there, and take advantage of everything going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after ArgoCon, there will be a some kind of co-located after party cocktail hour, happy hour thing. We need to get it on the schedule still, but yeah, there'll be something, another opportunity to connect with people. And then just between sessions, the rooms in between them, there is the sponsor area, and so we have sponsors from CodeFresh is sponsoring, Acuity is sponsoring, I know Intuit is sponsoring. I don't have the full list in front of me. I should shout them out though if they're sponsoring, but they'll have booths, and that area when you're moving between sessions or taking time between sessions is a great time to meet and talk with people, share ideas. I've always found the best part of every conference is what happens between sessions, because the sessions, again, you can watch those on YouTube. It's like, why am I here?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not here because I don't know how to use YouTube. I'm here because I want to meet people and have conversations with people. And there's a lot of people who have really interesting stories who couldn't get approval to submit those stories to ArgoCon, but they'll tell you about those stories
in person. Yeah.
Click.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow. Yeah. I'm already excited.
Yeah,
you're gonna love it.
Yep. So let's take a look at a few, how are we doing with time? A few sessions. This is a website my assistant created for me.
Your AI assistant.
Your AI assistant, yeah.
My AI assistant. I told her like, go grab the website and the schedule and build me like a nice thing to look at. So we're looking here at what the assistant thinks is a excited quote, and also like a summary. So this is actually not the abstracts; these are like generated after parsing them. And we have a lot of talks, and they go over rollouts, they go over CD. So I don't know. I think Dan has a talk. Maybe he can talk about his.
Well, I was going to say with this talk, so this was the one that your AI picked as being the most interesting one. New York Times is not a stranger to ArgoCon. They've been represented, I think, in 3 ArgoCons now.
Yep.
But Eve and Serhi here, I think it's their first time for both of them to be speaking, and they're both super sharp, and they have a lot of great experience about observability. So I think this will be a really cool talk, and I think your AI did a good job picking this as maybe a number 1 interesting one.
Yeah, I think this one, I was reviewing, well, I reviewed the talks, and I'm reviewing again. There's a lot of talks on, if you agree with me, there's a lot of talks on like running Argo, like the non-functional aspects of running Argo. Like there's a couple of like at scale, large promotions, observability, and my talk will have some of Grafana dashboards at scale for Argo. And then this one is also about observability, like putting SLOs and SLIs, like several level objectives if you're an SRE, on not just like the running workloads, right? But it's about your deployments and your infrastructure, your platform software, right? At the end of the day. So this one is a good talk on that one. Let's see.
Carlos, I've noticed that the talk are like 25 minutes long.
Yes, that's the challenge.
Wow.
So it's a challenge to put all the things that you want to say in 25 minutes and
25
cover questions. So yeah.
So you know, 25 minutes is the standard length I take to respond to a question that you make.
No, Dan.
The short version, right?
No.
Too long.
Then your intro is about 25 minutes.
Yeah, my intro is 25 minutes. This talk is going to be cool. For those that don't know Gateway API, this is a great project out of the CNCF, and also a project that CodeFresh created a plugin for Argo rollouts for, so that you can define your deployment strategy once using Gateway API and have it work with any ingress load balancer
implementation
provider.
of the API, Gateway API, right?
Exactly.
Any implementations of it. So that's good.
And
I didn't know that part of CodeFresh implemented that plugin for Argo rollouts.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably, knock on wood, be migrating it into core Argo rollouts this year.
Oh, great.
Because it has a lot of interest and a lot of usage, and it's adopting very quickly. So Lynn from Solo.io, super sharp, and Solo is just a very cool company as well. So I think this is another great one.
Lynn worked with me when we were in IBM,
and
that. she's because we were working on Istio back then. Did a lot of work on Istio, and she's been involved with the project since then. And she's a part of the TOC right now on the CNCF. So she's a very good person to meet. So attend her talk on that one. This one is from PipeKit, which PipeKit is one of the core maintainer organizations, right? Companies that support Argo, and they heavily maintain Argo workflows and Argo events. So Darko here from PipeKit will be showing on Argo events and then real-time incidents remediation. So Argo events is something that it's very powerful, and it combines very well with Argo workflows to the point that you can implement. I implemented the NASA is using a controller just with Argo events and Argo workflows, like a Kubernetes controller. So it's very powerful, Argo events. And we have a panel. So this one is very interesting. OCI integration is coming to Argo CD. So if people know, you can deploy with Argo CD, you can deploy a Helm chart, and a Helm chart that is an OCI repository. But in this case, what the team is looking at, the contributors, is building the capability in Argo CD to deploy the manifests, just not Helm, but just manifests packed in a OCI container, OCI registry, and be able to deploy that. So there's work happening in Slack if you want to know more now. Do not attend this panel, which is going to be Andrew from Red Hat, Blake from Acuity, Ishita from Red Hat, Michael, and Tori. We were able to capture like almost everyone in this panel. But who will be do you remember who's going to be the host for this one?
I think. Well, I thought that Andrew was essentially going to be running it.
The main person running the
Andrew
show.
is the original author, I guess, along with like me, and I think Christian was involved on the proposal. But Andrew has really been the one that's been driving it forward and working with everybody.
And Blake is doing PR, so both are collaborating.
Yeah, and then Blake has been doing a lot of implementation work.
I lately just coming in as a maybe product manager questions of like
all kinds of contributions are important, Carlos.
Yes, of like, how would this compare to the Flux OCI integration? If I'm using Flux, how do I migrate to Argo and those type of things? So they're looking into that, and actually, good news, it works.
Oh, awesome. Okay, excellent.
So they double check.
Yeah, well, it's good to have it as like a supported flow.
No, people are going to ask, right? So how difficult it is to run a script or not, they're compatible, like, and then they're going to go over like explaining like how annotations in OCI images are handled, right? And like this is an implementation using Argo CD.
And just as a side note, Andrew will be joining our next Argo Unpacked episode.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah. What's our topic for the next one? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but
we'll come back.
We'll see that on social.
Hey, this is a talk that I'll be giving with Victor, and
tell us a little bit about this one.
This one is interesting because for those that have been watching the Argo CD space, you know that there's been a lot of work. It's like Argo CD can take something and get it deployed, and it's amazing at it. It's better at it than anything else. And the challenge then is, okay, what if I want to go push a change to this app and then to that app? How do I do that? And so there's kind of a million different approaches out there right now to do that. Some people are doing it with a CI/CD pipeline. Some people are using Argo CD with application sets and progressive sync to get something like that. There's Cargo out there as an open source solution. CodeFresh GitOps is an implementation. Intuit has been working on the GitOps promoter. So we're going to be kind of going through these different approaches and how they work. Now, I'm somewhat biased, right? Because I obviously work at CodeFresh, I work at Octopus Deploy, and we're building our implementation of this and have been releasing that and promoting it. So to keep me honest, we've got Victor, who is just like, if you know Victor, and I hope he's watching and he knows that I say this with love, he is like a tech curmudgeon of curmudgeons, and like he's not going to take any crap. He's not going to let anybody get away with anything. He'll call out any BS if I try to spin it. So that way we'll have kind of a good balanced look at like these different approaches and how they work. And ultimately, there's a lot in common that are kind of best practices that bleed into these things. And so that's kind of where we're going to be focused on these approaches and how like to be thinking about them in a global way.
Hopefully best practices, like different implementation from the same best practices. But one thing that I may be requesting on this talk or if you, to cover is Argo rollouts, because a lot of people think about just Argo CD and then they talk about promotions and then like, but I'm using Argo rollout. So how do I have an Argo rollout in this cluster, in that region, in this cluster? All of them are Argo rollouts. And how do I promote it from one to another?
Okay.
Right.
That's a good thing for me to have in mind as I'm preparing these slides.
Because people have Argo rollouts and it's like, you show me how to do with Argo CD with a simple hello world. Like, how do I have Argo rollouts? Everything is on an Argo rollout, right? I have customers that do that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll talk about that too then.
So we run out of time. Maybe we jump to my talk, and that way we talk about things we talk about things that we know. I don't know which one number is mine. Let me see if I can find it. But yeah, this is a link that I have in it's available so people want to see it, or if we want to do another episode of discussing that. So mine is I think the name Mike from Togan. I'm doing with Adobe. So me and Adobe, we've been working on their massive, you've seen some of the talks, the ArgoCons. Argo CD has a massive deployment model. They have, on this case, Mike's team, not the other team, but this Mike's team only has, it has 400 clusters. And his team manages from around an average, they have a top of like 140 add-ons. And add-ons are like system-wide software that prepare the cluster. So it's a platform team. So multiply 140 by 400 clusters add-ons, that give you around 50,000 add-ons that you have to manage, the versions of them like in different regions, permutations. And then when you have like an add-on like Cert Manager or Fluent Beat that has a CVE, for example, how do you, or a feature that you're upgrading, how do you go for 400 clusters, different divisions, different organizations? How do you manage that? So we'll be talking, and we cannot do it in 25 minutes. So we're building a GitHub repo, which people can just run with one command using the Canoe IDP builder, that with one command will like bootstrap a cluster and then have like 400 V clusters, for example, and then have like all the add-ons, and then show like what is Grafana observability gives you in terms of like the metrics, using kubestate metrics to grab the information from the Argo projects and Argo CDs, and augment that with the metrics that Argo CD already have, and then create a view that gives you a view of like when something is out of sync. Is it out of sync because it's within the windows of maintenance? Like you don't, which is okay. It's a false positive. Like if you have a windows of maintenance, multiple of them in a project for different clusters, it's out of sync because it needs to be out of sync. It's in a maintenance windows, or not. And then having 50,000 apps, how do you find the ones that are out of sync that are okay, or the ones that are stuck? And stuck meaning if an Argo CD isn't progressing, right? Then like it goes into progressing, and then usually in 30 seconds, in 1 minute, it goes. So how do you take a 50,000 progressing apps, like one that is stuck for whatever reason? You need to compare when it started, when it finished, compare the amount of time, and then we're going to show like how to do that in using Prometheus rules and Grafana to a massive scale, half of observability for a large amount of clusters and add-ons, just to show like the mechanics of using what is open source, right? kubestate metrics, Grafana, Prometheus, Argo CD metrics that are available, and do that. And that's something that I think a lot of people get all other talks. Christian, you also doing one. There's a couple of multi-cluster ones.
Oh, wait. I wanted to make a comment. For those that have been watching you, Carlos, during this session, they'll be like, okay, I definitely want to see Carlos speak. But Mike, your co-speaker, we call him Tuj. He's amazing. This is, I think it'd be his third, maybe his fourth ArgoCon talk. He gave a talk at KubeCon 2 years ago about how many times you could nest V cluster. And he basically does infinite nesting of V clusters. And so he's a great one who has a lot of knowledge. And so if you get a chance at ArgoCon to go and say hello to him, say Tuj. whoosh, and he'll be excited to see you, and hopefully
so
won't run
he's
away.
excited on building this because they're doing this in Adobe, and I was like, I want to help, right? Bring this out. Like this knowledge is like very useful. Let's and then he wants to also contribute this to the Argo project, Argo Labs, right? I thought like we can start with Argo Labs of putting this example, Prometheus and metrics and Grafana, right? So people can use it at scale, and also like mechanics of like promoting an add-on, right, from environment to environment on how to do that with application sets. So this will be a good talk. But there's a lot of I saw in the schedule multiple presentations on multi-cluster. So if you're familiar with multi-clusters, there's a couple of talks on that.
So I'm sold. I want to be there. And then I'm wondering, is there like a limitation in terms of the number of people that can register? Do I need to register in advance?
You do need to register for ArgoCon itself, not necessarily for the talk. Now, if you're on the CNCF schedule, and I'll throw up my screen here really quick. Let me remove yours. When you're looking at these talks, you can click that add to my schedule. That doesn't reserve you a spot. It just adds it to like your agenda in CNCF. So like when you're running around, you're talking to people, you'll get lost. So it's good to go through ahead of time and hit like a couple add to the schedule. And then when you're in the middle of the day and you're like, okay, where am I supposed to be? You can pull up and look and see which one you're supposed to be in. I have seen the rooms get standing room only before quite a few times. So it is good to get there like, a minute or two early and or a few minutes early and sit down and get
definitely not running late. It's 25 minutes. So
yeah, it's not so long that you can be late, but I definitely have seen before talks that have been standing room only where like the fire marshal was threatening to come and like remove people. So like, better getting there sooner than later if you want to make sure to catch a talk.
Well, don't scare people. Like last one, we got big rooms. Like in the last ArgoCon, the room was very big, so a lot of people get in. About the registration, if you're not familiar with the registration, is co-located events. So as long as you have the co-located events in your registration, it's an add-on. Then you can attend ArgoCon and the other co-located events. So maybe you want to do half a day for one or the other one. Usually, if you pick ArgoCon in the morning, you stay in the you will stay in the afternoon. You'll be all day there, and then do the co-located party afterwards when it ends. Just stay for it after.
For the little after party. And I'll just show you like on this schedule here. I've got ArgoCon, but these are all other.
Backstage Con, Easter Day. Yep.
And so if you had a talk that you wanted to catch at one of these other ones, you could do that and spend the rest of the day at ArgoCon. So it's definitely like worthwhile to have that day. And it's a little bit quieter than KubeCon, right? Because it's kind of the people who arrived like a day early to do this stuff. And so it tends to be a little bit smaller and you have a little bit more time to talk with people. When we go into KubeCon, which is the next day, because this is a day 0 event, right? So it's like the kickoff of KubeCon. But the following day, Wednesday, is going to be like wall to wall, jam packed, crowded, running around. So a little bit more intense energy. So these colo days are really nice to get to know people and to have a little more time to talk and connect.
Yeah, and one more thing, we have the project kiosk. So in the expo, there's going to be an Argo project kiosk that's the maintainers or the people contributors of Argo will be there to answer questions during the KubeCon days. Like that starts on Wednesday. It's not the first day; it's just ArgoCon. Go to the rooms and then have fun. Hallway track, which is in front of the sponsor booth. So try to hit the sponsor booths, and then there people are just hanging there, just talking with the sponsors and the people that are just walking and waiting for the next talk during the breaks.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that was fantastic. I must say I'm even more excited than I was after this session. Thank you so much, Carlos and Dan.
You bet, Rovital. So we did have a closing as we're coming to the close. Someone was asking if we had any more discount codes for certification. Do we have any discount codes for certification today, Rovital?
We do. So I would say, Mario, subscribe to the newsletter, and then I'll get
Good.
your email there, and I'll be able to share it with you.
Nice.
Nice.
And here is the link.
Perfect. Well done.
Anything else? Comments, questions?
Yeah, Carlos, anything you want to plug at the end?
No, I'll be usually I need to be on my schedule, but I'll be in ArgoCon if you want to say hi. I'm also going to be in the EduRest booth. EduRest has a booth in KubeCon, and in there I have a couple of folks helping me, and they're going to be Argo demos with EKS and other ones with machine learning and other projects that we're working on, like Crow and others. So just stop there.
So during KubeCon, we can find you at the AWS booth. During KubeCon, you'll be able to find Rubital and I at the Octopus Deploy booth. And I will be at the Argo project booth for 2 or 3 of those days sporadically. But there'll always be somebody from the CodeFresh Octopus Deploy team at the Argo Pavilion booth if you want to talk to us there, or just come talk to us at the Octopus Deploy booth.
Not if, just come and say hi.
Yeah.
Not if.
Get some swag, right?
You have to come and say
get some
hi.
swag.
Learn about CodeFresh. Yeah.
Get some Argo stickers. Get some T-shirts.
This one, I think I got this one from you, right? This is my favorite T-shirt.
Yeah, that's it. You got the right one.
Yeah. Because usually you get a small one, and like I always have this one. Since you got me this one.
So Rubital, our schedule, do we have a show before ArgoCon? This is our last show before ArgoCon.
This is our last show. We'll have one after it. And if you register to the newsletter, you'll get all the details that we have shared here straight to your email.
Perfect. Okay.
So I want to say again, come and say hi. We will be there. We'll be happy to meet all of you.
Perfect. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us for episode 3 of Argo Unpacked. We'll see you at KubeCon, and then we'll see you for episode 4.
Yes.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for Rubital.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Had a lot of fun. See you, folks.
Bye-bye.